Welcome to the Nerds in Christ podcast, where we level up our faith by finding the gospel in our favorite fandoms. Hey guys, welcome back to the Nerds in Christ podcast. I'm Mike, your homeschool theologian. Who do I have with me tonight?
Hey guys, this is Steven.
Thomas. Bible Man Cam.
Yeah, so tonight this podcast is going to be way more laid back than we've ever done, mainly because I don't have any notes. But we're kind of going to shift gears a little bit and just more have a discussion about the times and what we've been going through and all that sort of thing. And I don't want to take up all the airtime. So, Steven, how you been, man?
Oh, wow. It's been, the last couple of months has been really just kind of a roller coaster of things. I've met a lot of new family and come in contact with new family that some I didn't know existed and some I just have never met before. Mm-hmm. Started out on my father's side. I got in contact with my father's mother's side. We went up there and celebrated my great uncle's birthday party in August. And then on my mother's side of the family, from my grandfather's first marriage, of course, we did know about them, but we had a reunion with them. Never met any of them though, but reunion with them. And then through Ancestry.com, I met some of my my father's side, and just been blessing after blessing with that. Yeah,
technology is super cool, and I think it's cool how like modern times have gotten back to a more ancient way of like back in the day, especially biblical times. You knew like generations upon generations behind you. You knew who you were related to, and now America is so individualized and stuff. And we've talked a bunch about this, how, Ancestry.com, like digging into that and learning more about your history and your family and all that.
Oh yeah. It's
super cool.
It's super cool. And it's definitely a rabbit hole that once you fall in it, like you're in it for,
but it makes, I was talking to my wife about this the other night. Like I would love to sit down with her grandparents and, a couple of my grandparents already passed, but my dad's dad, just sit down and ask them, like, tell me your life story. And like, I don't care if it takes all day. I just want to hear it. Because it would just be really cool.
It would be really cool. I know like my great grandfather, Broadbent, they came across, they went from Kentucky to Texas in a covered wagon.
That's super cool.
Because my grandfather was older when he had his children with my grandmother, and of course, he was one of the younger of 11 kids.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
My grandfather was born in 1919, and then my great-grandfather was born in 1873.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay, what about nerdy stuff? What kind of nerdy stuff you been getting into? Nothing?
Nothing, just busy, working and coaching.
You doing your nightly SpongeBob routine, though?
Oh, you have to, though.
Yeah,
just
before bed. Gotta get your milk and your SpongeBob.
Yeah, chocolate milk, SpongeBob, and I'm good to go.
I love that. We all have our nightly routines, right?
Yeah, and like you don't even really have to watch it because I've watched it so much that you can just close your eyes and you visualize it in your head just listening to it.
Yeah, that's so cool. All right, what about y'all? Tom? Can I call you Tom? Does anyone ever just call you Tom?
Gosh. Yes, and
or Tommy?
Infuriates my parents.
Can I call you Tommy?
You absolutely can.
Sweet.
T-Moss. Well, I've had a really interesting last month. I asked a lady to slow down in the parking lot at school, and it led, if you read the article on it, led
you had an article?
Oh, yeah. Very unflattering. Awesome. Very unflattering.
What was the title?
Man Pulls Gun in Road Rage Incident. Yeah. That was a lot of fun. No, so.
What was this article in?
Western Kentucky News.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. You're famous.
I know, right? Not for the reason I like. I have 3 other articles written about me since I've been here, and then that one came out, and I was like, wow.
Yeah, okay, you got to explain those so we don't get in trouble.
Yeah, please. So what had happened was a lady passed a work truck that had stopped in the wrong place, and some people were coming in front of the work truck. She almost ran them over, and me being me, you see something, you say something. Mm-hmm. I pulled up beside her, rolled my window down. I was like, ma'am, you really need to slow down, please. I was like, you almost hit those kids and those parents back there. And at first, it started okay. It did not end that way. She said stuff, and let me say again that I was in the Army for 10 and a half years, 3 combat deployments with the infantry guys at all times. That's what we did. And I was impressed. And it's hard to impress me when it comes to cussing and screaming. Yeah. And I was deeply impressed. And I was like, wow, okay. I caught the wrong one today. Wow. Understood. Well, we get up to the stop sign and I get out and I'm like, ma'am, you got to stop. I was like, there are children that can hear you. For God's sakes, please stop, please. And no, that just made her angrier. She tried to hit my truck. If anybody knows where the Eddyville Mall parking lot is, I took a right out of the school, a right onto Jenkins, a right onto 62. I got in the far left-hand lane. She got in the right lane and kept coming over like she was going to hit me. And thank God she videotaped all this or I would have been going to jail. But in the videotape, you can hear her cussing and screaming the entire time, yelling that she's going to kill me. And then when I pulled into the parking lot, they have gun stickers on the back of their car. And I know this because I was going to introduce myself to them because they're from South Carolina too. You know, I shop at that gun store. Awesome. She leaped out of that car and was looking for her gun actively when she got out. So
I didn't know she got out of the car.
Oh, she got out, was coming to the front of my vehicle to whoop me. And that's the nice way to put it. And I drew down and I said, ma'am, you need to back up right now. I'm not playing. Back away.
Kids were in the car, right?
No. My kids already been dropped off.
Oh, you're dropping them off.
Yeah,
okay.
no, yeah. And nice Thomas went out the window at this point. I was nice until you followed me into this parking lot. She literally, at 62, she's in the right lane. I'm in the left. I went left. She went through the intersection, burning rubber to come in. Cops finally get there. The famous line from her video is, evidently I don't have my gun. Well, thank God for little favors.
No kidding.
Yeah.
God's looking at you, was like, okay, maybe we should hide her gun from her.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
He said some angels that hide her gun. Just put your hand on her.
So within 2 minutes of getting there, the cops put her in the back of the cruiser. She is still flipping me off and cussing from the back of the cruiser. And I'm like, y'all see what I'm dealing with? They're like, she's being arrested for disorderly conduct. I said, oh, okay, cool. He goes, you're going to get charged with, what was it? Careless driving. I said, okay, you know what? Yep, I brake checked. I did. That's my fault. I was like, I thought my truck was going to get hit, but yeah, I get it. Mm-hmm. I'm in the wrong.
You got to do something.
Yeah, I'll take the hit. Yeah. Well, the next day I get called back. Hey, will you come back in here? We need to take some more information down. I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'll be up there. And Sheriff Brett White was like, listen, I'm sorry. You're going to get charged with disorderly conduct as well because we're not charging you with anything with the gun because you are well within your rights and Kentucky legislature says that. He's like, and we're all pro-gun. He goes, and to be honest with you, you did a lot better than I would have. And I was like, oh, well, thanks. I was like, but really? And he goes, yeah. So I had to go in and I had to plead guilty because if I fought it, and it was more money than I wanted to spend. So yeah, that was fun. I had to pay a fine and very small fine, but it was still weird to be in there. But I'll tell you what, I pray for our country. The people that came before me in that courthouse, some of them were hilarious. Some of them, it was just, wow, at what point is your life going to turn around? Like, and I even talked to my pastor about this. I think that's where you need to have the ministry at. It's right there. Yeah. Just somebody right outside the door as soon as they come out. You know, how did it go? Let me talk with you for a moment. Yeah, do you know what God can do for you? Because, I mean, some of these people are at their lowest points. And they just can't stop screwing up. They're just like, well, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to keep smoking weed, doing meth, doing heroin, whatever.
Because they don't have another option.
Correct. And I mean, it's just, and I get it. I mean, I've been in those spirals before, you know, where things just look horrible and you're circling the drain and you can't make a right decision. Mm-hmm. And I felt terrible for a lot of them in there. Some of them, though, it was just funny. Like the one guy, he was charged with drugs and everything, big old redneck boy, and he's just standing there looking at his lawyer, and the lawyer hears the plea bargain, and the lawyer's like doing this number, covering the mic, and he's like, you should take that bargain. And he goes, no, I know my rights. I ain't guilty. They found heroin in your vehicle with you. Yeah. You had needles. They've got you.
Yeah.
No, I know my rights. I know my rights.
That poor guy.
And I'm like, wow, okay, yeah, let's go that route. But other than that, we're also buying a house, which is just so much fun. Running into a lot of issues with that because for those who don't know, my wife's overseas right now. She's on the USS Cole, and we are trying to purchase a home and.
States away too, right?
Oh, yeah, over in Virginia. So I mean, everything.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, you can't just like, check stuff out. You've got to call and
we've had to video everything and every house. We bid on 2 other houses prior to this. We both of them, they accepted our bids, and then we had to pull out because one of them, the floors were all warped and jacked up, and you could tell it was a money pit and stuff.
I couldn't imagine buying a house without looking at it.
So the great news is my dad is actually, he's a UXO tech, a bomb technician. So he goes out and he works at the different bases. Well, he's out in Virginia right now and was able, he's less than 10 minutes from the house. And he rode over and took a look at it and he was like, oh yeah, man, it looks good. This is it. He goes, there's some things that need to be done, but he goes, any house is going to be that way. He goes, I think you're paying way too much, which I agree, by the way. A house in Virginia is $470,000. For that same price here, I could get 40 acres and a 2,500 square foot house.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm getting 1,700 square feet and a postage stamp for a yard. So, yeah.
But you're in Virginia.
I'm in the school district we want to be for the kiddo.
That's
we want to send her to
for,
the one school for 4 years. So, and that's the important part. So,
yeah, that makes sense. All right.
Yeah, no, sorry, crazy.
Family stuff. Okay. What about nerdy stuff? Anything?
Oh, nerdy stuff. I've been diving deep into Warhammer. I'm a huge Warhammer 40K fan.
So is this movie legit coming out?
The one with Henry Cavill?
No, he's backed out.
Is he?
Yes. No, he took a stand and he backed out. He told Amazon he would not do it because
Amazon's doing it?
It's a series.
Kind of like the whole Paramount thing they did with Halo. They just ruined it for everybody. So he backed out. Well, now they're trying to entice him back, with more money, and we'll get your okay with all this.
Just let him write the freaking thing. It'd probably be great.
He left Superman to do it. Mm-hmm. He left being the Man of Steel to work on it. Because
I thought he left Witcher. Well, he left Witcher because they were doing the same thing.
It was Witcher, but he is a huge Warhammer guy. Like he's right.
Yeah, he said that's what he was. I've heard him say like when he was a kid, he was known as Fat Cavill. He was extremely ugly and just chubby, and then he started working out like with his brothers, I think.
And now he's the cavalry.
And then he became Superman.
Yeah,
but yeah, so he was like a nerd first before he became famous, which I think is really cool.
But no, they've revamped Darktide. If you ever played that video game, it's a lot of fun. It's just basically a slasher. You and 3 other partners go in and you just tear through the hordes of bad guys.
Is that the newest one?
Correct.
Okay, I've seen some gameplay.
Well, no, I'm sorry. That's not the newest one. The newest one was Space Marine 2. Which a lot of fun in the playthrough. Not so much, versus little 12-year-old kids like, I pwned you, noob.
Oh, yeah, I thought you like play against hordes and stuff.
You do as long as you're playing the missions.
Oh,
you can
I got
do the versus stuff, and that's not as fun.
Because it's like Helldivers, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot like it.
When they quit doing updates and they didn't do what they said they were going to do for Helldivers, that made a huge surge, and everybody switched over to that for playing and streaming and all that stuff.
Recently, I saw a guy. He was going through on Xbox 360. He was going through all the old Call of Duties to see if there was an online match, and I was like, "That's so cool that people still play that."
Is he getting matches?
Yeah, he went through. I don't remember exactly, but like multiple Call of Duties and a couple of the others on Xbox 360, and he finally found one, and I was like, "That's really cool." Because I remember playing. I think it was Call of Duty 3.
Modern Warfare 3, the first one.
I think so.
Oh yeah, that was a lot of fun.
So like one of my buddies that I play Black Ops 6 with. If he turns on his Xbox 360 and tries playing Modern Warfare 2, it won't let him because they perma-banned him. And still to this day, he can't log in.
Did he do something wrong, I guess?
It was a long story, but he's really good.
Yeah.
Like this dude carries the team and he was really good and and that was back in the good old days when you could say stuff and not get in trouble.
I could imagine now. Yeah.
But yeah, that's what it was.
All right. Cam, you're up. What's up? What's going on?
Well, as you can see from my attire, it's hunting season. So just been hunting and schooling and reading the Bible.
Yeah.
That's really about it.
Yeah.
What's your favorite weapon for hunting deer?
Well,
the one that kills them.
Yeah. It's going to be a 6.5 Creedmoor.
Oh.
Let's just leave it there.
Mine's a GMC Jimmy.
Oh, yeah.
Wait a minute.
It's a mobile blind.
Hey, I mean, it's got more confirmed kills than anything else in my arsenal. So
I guess so.
I tell you what, the people like driving to school, I see more on the side of the road than I've seen in the deer stand all year. So there's a point there.
I did shoot the 6.5. That's what Bumpy had. But it was a youth model, but still, it was pretty cool.
I picked up 2 of them, and I would marry my Howa. Mm-hmm. It's that nice. I love it.
What is that? It's
the Howa 1500 made in Japan.
Oh, cool.
It's got American flag, Caracote on the outside.
It's got to be camo. What you talking about?
No, it does not. The deer will just run up and die in front of you because that's how cool that gun is. It is amazing.
Oh, my gosh.
Smoothest bolt I've ever worked with. I could hit this mic at 1,500 yards.
Yeah. Some of the best terminal ballistics on the market.
Oh, it's beautiful.
See it. All right. What about nerdy stuff because this is Nerds in Christ. We're kind of going all over the place.
So my nerdiness has kind of switched here lately. So like in nerddom, probably Black Ops 6, since that's come out, I've played that some. Mm-hmm. But like,
you definitely minister while you're playing, right?
I actually do.
Do you really?
Yeah, I have friends that are like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Cam, I didn't mean cuss, yada yada yada."
Yeah.
And it's funny.
It's fine.
I'm like, yeah, that's what.
That's cool though that people kind of feel that off of you.
But it's one of those things where I've had some like, I usually play with 5 or 6 other guys. We'll be in a group, and then like a couple will go to bed, or I'll switch over, and we'll have too many people in the party, so we'll split it. And then some will start getting into deep stuff like, man, I'm going through this. And it's like, well, man, I'll be praying for you. Like,
it's definitely a way to minister, yeah.
But like my nerdiness has kind of switched over to like the War Poet Society here recently.
Oh, yeah.
That's just something I've been really diving into, being a true warrior and a poet, and like reading more, diving into your word more. It's just really good.
That's
being
awesome.
able to better provide and protect your household.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff, man.
Oh, by the way, I won Nerds in or not Nerds in Christ. I had Nerd Trivia night over at the Shire.
Oh, I missed that.
Oh, we dominated.
Yeah, was it fun?
Yeah, it was a pickup team too.
What was the name of your team?
Loki's favorites.
Oh, is that when you all were dressed up?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
So yeah, it was just a random pickup group. I had the owner's daughter, my daughter.
Who is brilliant.
Oh yeah, no.
Well, both of them are brilliant, but Sophie is like...
Sophie's super smart.
Yeah.
And then Laren knew all the Star Wars stuff. She just came in and smashed it.
Perfect.
I was really kind of surprised how much of Lord of the Rings I actually knew.
Good for you. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you.
Super proud. The first one was, what was Gimli's first words in Lord of the Rings?
A book or movie?
Both, actually. I had to look it up. It's actually the same in both.
Is it? Hold on. I'll be dead before the ring is in the hands of an elf.
What are we waiting for?
Oh, yeah, that's good.
He's like, hey, what are we all waiting on?
That's good.
So, yeah, I thought it was pretty cool.
Book and movie, dude. That's cool.
Because I asked that. I was like, are we talking about the movie or the book? And they're like, both. Mm-hmm. I was like, no, there's no way.
That's cool. Gimli's first words.
And that's the funny thing about
I'm waiting for.
Like War Poet Society, what I've been watching and everything.
Yeah.
He's about like you, and he quotes Lord of the Rings a little too much.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
But he also does Star
There's
Wars.
good proverbs
So I'm like,
in there.
I'm gonna. Hey,
I mean,
John,
is it ever too much? Let's be honest.
No.
There's never too much Lord of the Rings.
No, because it's classic. Like you
It
can't
is.
like movies today. Like I watched Deadpool. That's probably the newest Deadpool. That's probably,
I honestly can't believe you. I'm a little upset with you that
dude,
you
it
watched
hurt
that.
my spirit.
Yeah.
Like no joke.
Actually, I felt when you were watching it that night, you hadn't told me, but I just felt something. I was like,
So did you watch it?
Cameron
And you're
needs
like,
help.
I need to go take a shower.
No, like after
Probably.
after it got done, I prayed. I'm like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like it was like a lot of the movies that are rated R now. It's like it's rated R just for some few words, maybe some extent violence, stuff like that. Okay, but this was just something.
It needs to be rated. Prepare yourself.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
was like pirate R. Like,
Yeah,
I like that. I'm going to remember that one. The Pirate R.
like when they made it for Disney, they're like, we're gonna try everything we can to see how this goes because they're gonna open up all
Because
the doors.
it's on Disney right now. Isn't
Okay,
it?
it's on Disney Plus.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
and like it was cool. There were some cool parts because it showed some like true classic like X-Men comic books, like Old Man Logan. It showed Logan on the cross, the X-Man cross. It showed like his original 2 different style uniforms he had.
the brown and yellow.
The brown and yellow, the blue, the black and yellow. It showed all kinds of different variants of Logan. It even showed like Henry Cavill as Logan.
The Calvary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And like there was some cool parts, but other than the like 3 or 4 cool parts, it was like 99% junk.
Sweet. Yeah.
Like I could watch all the John Wick movies and not bat an eye, and this one made me blush.
Well, John Wick never says anything.
No, like so literally.
I know
like,
what you mean, though.
But there was a scene where like the first part of it was like a true 10-minute graphic gay joke. Like very graphic, and it disturbed me. Like
Yeah.
I'm like you, I was in the military. Like that joke, $20 kind of thing, showering with other people. That's fine. But this was extreme. And there was no holds bar on it.
Yeah, that's just the way things are going.
And
They're
was
gonna
it just
continue
there for
going.
like no reason for it? Just
Yeah, it really was.
It was grotesquity for the sake of grotesquity.
100%.
Well, that's what Deadpool stands for, and like to give the people what they want. That's what they want.
Stupidity.
Yeah. That's,
Well, I mean, it's because look at most of the movies that are big now. They don't have a hard plot. I mean, there's nothing, that you got to think about afterwards. One of my favorite, like old school movies it's called Mind Games.
Yeah.
And it's a group of, what did they call it? FBI profilers who go out and they're supposed to go to this island and profile a pretend killer and everything. Well, they start getting killed off one by one. And it's deep. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of gore and there's a little bit of violence in there, but it's deep in the fact that it's making you think. Who is it? What led to this? They're giving you clues throughout the entire thing. So, I mean,
movies like that are usually.
Another really, it was kind of a raunchy movie, but I watched it, years ago, like the Arnold Schwarzenegger Total Recall.
Oh yeah,
made you really think, like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Well, like any movie like that, it made you think. Even I said John Wick. That was a movie that, you knew what was going to happen. It was about like violence and everything, but it had a plot behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Up until the last one.
Yeah, but it was really good. But
I haven't seen that one.
It's to the point where Comedy Central had a movie 13 years ago called Idiocracy.
Oh yeah, no, that one.
That's 100% where we're at. Like the average IQ of people that I know now is plummeting.
And everyone wears Crocs.
100%.
Yeah, that's where Crocs got their start.
Like, and it's funny, like looking at that movie and looking at the state we're in, it's just like, wow.
Wow.
Well, I mean, it all comes back to attention spans, because I guarantee you, like, if you do the analytics on this podcast and stuff and look at how many people are watching it all the way through, you'll see that people are taking it in snippets.
Oh yeah,
they'll watch for 5 minutes and then they got to turn it off and go to something else.
Look at our content. Our shorts have almost 10,000 views on some of them.
Yeah.
Our podcast might have 15.
Yeah. It's the attention span right now is 8 seconds.
Ooh, purple.
Yep.
Ooh, fly.
But hey, I can't. I'm that way too. I'm wired.
And it is. It's
I'm that squirrel on Up, or I'm that dog on Up. Squirrel.
So
when he's like talking.
And not to get political or anything, but something's been said that I'm all for, and it was talking about how like a reform to the Department of Education, to where it's like, hey, you're gone, go back to the States, and we're going to teach people smart stuff again.
And if you go back to the States, then it's almost kind of smart, because then the states will kind of, quote, compete with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Competition breeds better training.
Yeah.
Any day
And
of the
so
week.
that's when you're going to get more of a competition. You're going to this state's going to try to outdo this state. Well, I'm going to have better test scores than you. I'm going to do better.
And who knows? We might get into the Hunger Games too. That would be pretty cool.
I mean, Paul says to live as Christ, is die as gain. Let's go.
I'm sorry.
Jennifer Lawrence and Peter Bread.
I mean, yeah, he's pretty good at camouflage.
But it is a thing like this. Oklahoma took a huge stand saying, hey, this will be taught in schools. And it's that thing. It's not so much for the religious aspect of it, which if we want to get off the religious side for just a second, there's so much moral right and wrong you can learn from this book that many philosophers say this is a heck of a philosophy book.
Yeah, I mean, every religion, their leader or whoever said, Jesus was a great dude, the Bible's a great thing, but our way is, the only way to heaven, or whatever.
And that's what you get to learn when you start seeking this for, if you start in a worldly way, like I'm going to try learning something about life, you end up encountering Jesus and you actually learn what life is.
If you look at philosophy, Proverbs is just one giant book of philosophy. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's well put.
I love that book.
And not to harp on John Lovell again from Warpaw.
All right. You only get 2 of those. This is your second one.
This is the last one.
Right,
This is the last one. But no.
Lord of the Rings, as many of them as you want.
Okay.
Word Poet,
2.
Just 2.
But no, so he was talking about how they had went to Greece. They went on this big trip.
Cool.
People could go. And he said he visited 3 sites that impacted him deeply. He said the first one was the battleground where Leonidas fought with a 300 against Xerxes, which, fun fact, that Xerxes is the same one married to Esther in the Bible. The Persian.
Really?
Yeah. Fun fact.
I'll have to figure out the timeline of that. That's cool.
But that's true. That Xerxes that they talk about in Esther,
one?
it's the same one.
I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know if there was multiple. That's cool.
So he said that impacted him, that battleground that they were on.
Hell's Gate?
Thermopylae.
The hot gates.
The Hot Gates.
Thermopylae.
You can do
But
it.
of course, the water isn't like as far up as it was then. It's like we're seated way back.
Oh, yeah.
And the
No,
mountains
it's like in
kind
the
of
beginning, it
around you.
wasn't much wider than the room we're in right now.
Yeah.
So you could only stand 20 men abreast.
And they stacked them. I mean, and then he said they were at the hotel, and then he went to another place, and it was the prison that held Socrates. And it's like, we get so much out of that. We get the, strategic thinking, not strategic thinking, like Socrates
satirical thing.
Yes. Where like you ask questions, you get an answer, then you ask another question. Like, hey, we're gonna find the deep truths. And then he finally went to the prison in Caesarea Philippi where Paul was in prison.
That would be cool.
And,
Yeah, right.
And it's that thing where he said, all the people I look up to, I must be crazy, had a death wish. And it's like, wait a second. And I got to thinking, and he quoted what I just said: to live is Christ, to die is gain. And it's so true. We live in a society that it's all about us. Like, I know you're going to get into what you learned at the conference, and it opened your eyes to some things. But we live in a world where we become what our identity is. Like, at one time, my identity was a soldier. My identity was an influencer for hunting and fishing. My influencer was a husband, a father, stuff like this, where it can get toxic to where, like, I'm a video gamer, so on and so forth. But to truly live this world the way we're taught to, the way that we were formed to, is to live as Christ, is to die as gain. Like, I will gladly take a bullet for any of you all, protect my family, who's on my left, who's on my right, so on and so forth. But like, ultimately, this is more important than anything out there. And that's why when you look at not the esoteric, but like the structure of how it's supposed to be, is it's God or Christ, your family, as in your wife first, your kids second,
Right.
then the rest of the world, your ministry, your work, so on and so forth. And I mean, in a society where people do nothing but watch movies, and I'm just a movie buff, or I play nothing but video games, I'm a Twitch streamer nonstop, it becomes a toxic trait that can lead to a downfall.
Yeah, no doubt.
Because you get into that point where you end up becoming a nice guy in a bad way, to where you don't want to deal with conflict. You're just going to sit there. You're going to take it. There's nothing wrong with being nice, but at the same time, when you're spineless, there's a different aspect.
Right. And like what you're saying, to live as Christ and to die as gain, as far as that goes too, and you said you take a bullet for each one of you. I do the same thing for you guys as well.
Depends on the placement of the bullet.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
No, I'm kidding.
Anyway, like, in that phrase too, what makes me think as well is like, it's harder to actually live for Christ than it is to die for Christ, because you only have to die once.
Oh, yeah.
I only have to die for my wife once. I only have to die for anybody one time. You only die one time. But to live, you got to live, 365 times, 70 years, that many days.
Dying's easy.
And you look
Dying's the easy part.
And you look at what Christ said: if you want to follow me, deny yourself, pick up your cross, and follow me. It is a daily battle, where some days you are going to fall. It's just inevitable. But you can get back up when you realize you fall, pick up your cross, and it's like no more, and finish out that day following Christ.
Was that Alfred says to Batman about falling?
Oh, and it's the one with Christian Bale. I know what you're
The
talking
Dark
about.
Knight series.
Yeah, I got you.
Something about what do we do when we fall or something, teaches us to get back up or something like that. I don't remember. But back to what you said about being nice. It always, anytime I hear like people talk about people being nice or whatever, nice people don't get crucified. So,
And so
in the
that's
best way possible, don't be nice.
Oh, here it is. Why do we fall, sir? So that we can learn to pick ourselves up.
That's right. Yeah. And it reminds me of Narnia. I'll put in a Narnia one today too.
Oh, there we go.
What Mr. Beaver says about Aslan, of course he's not safe, but he's good.
Yes.
So
Well, that's Christ. I mean,
being a nice guy, being a safe guy isn't always the best thing.
no,
But
and,
being good,
Sometimes you just got to Leroy Jenkins this stuff.
yeah, for real. So the thing about it is, so you can be nice, you can be a kind guy, but when you are a quote unquote just nice guy, to where you don't want conflict, you don't want anything like that, when your faith or a situation that comes up that puts you to the test, you'll run from that.
yeah. Or you can be a total D-bag and just always want conflict and always want to argue, and that doesn't do anything.
And coming
Stop
from
describing me.
Well,
Okay?
no. Well, coming from our background,
No,
especially yours, it's a thing. So there's some people that you knew when you. So I never went downrange. I'd been overseas, other things like that, but I knew without a shadow of a doubt there was people I would follow into battle because I knew they had a fight or flight, and they was fight, and I knew there was people that I'd rather get kicked out because they would get me killed because they were going to run.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite things, my daughter said this to me first, and then she told me she watched it in a movie, but I told her one day, I was like, fight or flight response is a hard thing to deal with. She goes, Dad, I'm a flightless bird. Completely caught me flat-footed. I was like, that's really good. But we got ready to go fight.
But we got to live on that toe where we have to be ready to fight for what we believe.
Yeah.
To where, like, this is so important to us that it's put us where we're at. Like, this has changed us dramatically to a sense that, wedding rings, just our faith in Christ, our brothership here, things like that. It's put us in a place that you can't deny the truth because we've experienced it.
And this wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the martyrs that did it before us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It wouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think one of the greatest sayings that I've memorized from years and years ago was it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
I love that quote.
And that's the biggest thing. So many, especially new Christians, it's, I believe in God, I believe in Christ, and I'm going to heaven. You're absolutely right. Now it's time to start digging into the word. Now it's time to start putting on the armor of God and knowing because the devil's going to come at you every which way he can, and he knows the Bible frontwards and backwards.
Well, that's why.
And he's going to trip you up on it.
Well, that's why in Ephesians 6, he gives us armor.
Mm-hmm.
You look at it, you're not going to send someone into battle without armor. You're not going to run 20 miles without running 1 mile first.
Yeah. But you got to remember too, that there has to be produced fruit. So if you say that you believe, that's one thing. But if there's no fruit to back it up, the belief isn't there. So imagine being grafted into a vine. So when Jesus talks about that, I'm the vine, you are the branches. Unless you're truly grafted, you can't produce fruit. So you can be a branch on the ground saying, I'm a Christian, I'm a Christian, I'm a Christian. You might be pretty close to the vine, but you haven't given up yourself completely and been actually grafted in, so you produce.
It's funny you say that because I'm working on I got asked to speak somewhere in December, and I'm working on a sermon for it, and that's kind of the gist of it. You kind of gave me an inkling that, hey, you're on the right path, and it is, and the name of it.
Because I love the quote, like, even demons believe.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus says, like,
Yeah, it's more than just that.
it's so much more than that. And there's so many people in churches that say they believe, and that's great. Like, that's great, you're in church. But if there's no fruit, and if fruit doesn't have to be you go on a mission trip to another country. Fruit just could mean like the way you actually
Just your daily
live.
action.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. So the name of the sermon I'm working is called The Right Fruit in a Rotten World.
Ooh, that's cool.
And it's something that through our conversations with me and you, Eric, listening to WPS, stuff like that,
A good writer and preacher steals from everyone. So,
but it's more the conversations we have,
Yeah.
and it's, you are where you're at for a reason. That's your mission field.
for sure.
So like you, where you work, you where you work, you where you work.
I don't want to.
I know. We've had this conversation. Me either. I mean, do I necessarily want to be behind a pulpit? No. That's, if I have to be, I can get up there, fill in, stuff like that, but I want to lead from behind. Show people how to go, not be the flash and the show, But it's the thing where it was a hard truth for me to realize, like, why am I not at a church yet? Why am I not in the ministry yet? Yada, yada, yada. And both you, Eric, and Steven, it's like, hey, you are.
Hey, you big dummy.
And it's one of those things.
McFly.
And there was a cool Jesus moment where, so I work in retail, and it's one of those things I say, have a blessed day. And I truly mean it to people. Like, if that could be my one little thing to tell people, like, hey, I hope you have a blessed day, and I hope that impacts you.
But as mundane as that sounds on the surface, if it only impacts like one person and they really think about it, like in the whole week of the thousands of people you come across, that one person's worth it.
Oh,
Yeah,
and that's what I'm getting to. So I was mixing paint one day. Our paint guy was out, and I said that to someone. He walked out, and about 5 minutes later, I look up, and he's right there. He's like, hey, man, thank you. I mean, and he was wearing like this Christian construction company shirt, all kinds of stuff. And he was walking out, and we had a good conversation. And as he walked out the door, he yelled, Matthew 7:20. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, wait, what is that? So
Gotcha.
So I flipped.
Hold on.
Listen, we're Bible nerds, but we're not that big of Bible nerds, okay?
So like I knew generally what it was, but I didn't know. And it says they will know you by the fruit, or they will know who you are by the fruit you bear.
For sure. Yep.
And it was just like, oh, I see you, Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh, I love those moments because I'm having one of those right now. So you ever want to know what people think about you, get in trouble. And I mean that to the
100%.
umpteenth degree. Let something bad be said about you, And people, if you have truly done great things or done anything that's worthwhile, yeah, I mean, a whole book written on the guy. So I was asked not to volunteer at the school anymore because two of the very liberal moms up there got very upset after they read the article. So without getting too deep into everything, evidently my face has been in the photos and stuff of the school too much, and they got very upset about this. That they, everybody, as soon as that article was written and people read it, they were like, Thomas Lewis, I know that guy. He works with our kids. And these two moms led the charge, and I was asked not to volunteer for the rest of the year. Like, hey, if you come back next year, we'll reevaluate. Okay, cool beans. But all the parents that stood up and said something nice about me, all the people that I've worked with that have said something nice, getting ready to leave and stuff, people feel a lot more free to tell you what they think about you as you're getting ready to walk out the door. And it has been such a blessing to know that the little things that I've done have truly made an impact in somebody's life.
We're going to have a conversation before you leave.
Oh, appreciate that. Cool. Like some friends of mine, I'm getting way off topic, and I know there was a axe with Fenrir on the back of it. It's got a big wolf's head on the back of it. I saw this axe at Grand Rivers, and I was like, oh man, I really want this axe. No, we're buying a house. I can't do that. I had talked myself away from it because it was like $65, and I was like, no, I'm not going to buy it.
I totally would have bought that axe.
I know, right?
I was like, do what?
It's in the truck right now, as a matter of fact.
It depends on how you say it. Oh, that's $65. I don't need that. That's only $65.
Well, I don't want the wife to get upset with me about that. But so they invited me over to their house for Veterans Day and everything. They invited a couple of the other folks over and everything that were veterans within the church, and we had a meal and everything. It was really good, and they're all telling stories. It's the Tobys, as a matter of fact. And all of a sudden, Sophie pops up and goes, Sophie goes, we have something for you. We got you a gift. And I was like, oh, y'all don't need to do that because I never know how to accept gifts. And here comes Nathan.
I don't know what to do about it.
Here comes Nathan out with his axe, and I'm like, I know that axe. Oh my gosh! And it was so much fun. Like I loved it. It was such a great gift. But just the nice things they said, and they're like, you're always here. You're always volunteering. You're always helping out everybody around the church. We just want to give back to you. And I was like, that means a lot. Thank you. It's great when, especially, going through a rough time because all the crap that was going on with the school and everything else and the whole charge. I was like, oh, this is just terrible. My life's all awful. Because you know how we don't see the forest for the trees sometimes.
I know that.
And, and I was praying to God and everything. I'm like, I know it's in your hands. I know I'm going to be okay. Lord, I know this. So many nice people have said so much good stuff. I just know that I'm going to be okay. And I was. But to hear it and everything made such a massive impact on me and stuff. Just to know that
awesome.
It was there. And that's what I'm saying, getting back to what you were saying, those affirmation words right there, that you will be known by what you're doing. And it's like, I'm sharing the love of Christ through service because that's what I feel like I'm supposed to do. I am a servant in heart. I am called to serve others.
Well, something to say before we go to break is one of those, Jesus says, for what you do to the least of these, you truly do for me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that's so true when we walk in our daily lives and we look at the people around us. I mean, working in retail, it's sometimes hard. I mean, sometimes I can be a judge, and I hate that. And you just look at someone and you're like, I'm not doing that today. Like, I'm go somewhere else. And it's like, you catch yourself and you're like, man, what are you doing? And when you catch yourself and you go back and you can actually make an impact, you were doing it for the least of those. So truly you were doing it for Jesus.
We were talking about that out of 1 Timothy chapter 3, what it takes to be an elder of the church.
Yeah.
And one of it was being hospitable. And that doesn't mean inviting your friends over for, food and, fellowship. It means inviting the least of the church over. The folks who you sit there and you look at and you're like,
someone
I don't think
who
we can be
can't do
friends.
the same for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It should never be a reciprocation thing. It should be, I am giving of myself, my time, because it's the right thing to do. And maybe that person needs a friend. Maybe that's why they're so down and out. Mm-hmm. They just need somebody to, invite them over and be part of their little crew for a little bit. And it's one of those things that makes a huge difference. Speaking of that, I get really excited about this. One of the very first stories I ever heard when I became a Christian was Brother Danny was standing up at the pulpit, and he told the story about a guy who was, he prayed every night. He was a good, godly man, and he asked God for a favor, and God answered him and said, "What do you want, my son?" He said, "I want you to come have dinner with me." And God said, "Okay." So he makes this huge pot of noodles and everything because, God's a big guy. He's got to be. He invented the universe. So he
What
makes
do you
this.
think God would eat?
What do you think he'd do?
I don't know, but he said he made noodles, so I'm going with it.
Made noodles?
I think you would eat August moon.
August moon?
Yes.
I'm thinking of like
'Cause
a good Southern meal.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll change it to brisket. So he made this huge
No,
brisket,
you
right?
said noodles. I don't know. Noodles like
Either
that.
way, so a guy knocks on his door and he's like, "Hey, I broke down the road. Mind if I use it?" He's like, "Absolutely." He goes, "Are you hungry? I have food. God's coming over to my house later. To come eat. Would you like some of the food?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, absolutely. I would love
Was
to."
it like, okay.
So, he called the phone, got the tow truck and everything, and then he left. Well, then a little bit later, this homeless person knocks on his door and he's like, I'm just, the guy off the road that had a flat tire, he said that you had food. And he goes, "Absolutely. Come on in, have some food, share, let me share a meal with you." He shared the meal. He talked about God and everything. And he shared Christ with him and everything. And then the man said, "Well, thank you," and got up and he left. God never showed up that night. And he got down on his knees at the end and he prayed and he's like, "God, I never saw you. Where were you?" He said, "You saw me twice, son. I came to you and you fed me. You fed not only my soul, but you fed my stomach as well." And I mean, and I'll cry even now thinking about it because I love Brother Danny and he's gone. But it was so touching to me. That's when I realized that's what my calling was, to be a servant, to serve others, because I think it makes the biggest impact.
It totally. We as humans think we need to make the biggest impact as far as numbers, right?
It's quality, not quantity.
So like getting into,
He is Johnny on the spot when he goes for it.
but with the Bible and with God, like that story, it's literally with one person. It's with with Jesus's disciples. It's with 12 people. It's with the three that he chose. It's with the three of you, 4 of us together here. It's that is literally what makes more of a difference.
Absolutely.
It's deeper, not broader.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the 4th book in the Bible.
Numbers? Golly. Make me think.
That was really good because I was clicking it off in my head too. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I get it.
Numbers was actually, I think it's Numbers. Hebrew, it's supposed to be in the wilderness, which makes way more sense.
Yeah, because Numbers is where you get into Joshua and Jacob.
Yeah, but it's technically supposed to be called in the wilderness, which it just makes more sense. Anyway, Cameron, what are you looking for? Maybe I can help.
Well, the scripture you basically just quoted.
What's that?
The rejoicing.
Rejoicing? Always?
No, but yes. So,
what's our time at? I didn't put a timer on.
we're almost at 50 minutes. That's why I said after this we'll take a break. But
We're at what?
50? Like
yeah.
50?
Wow, that's gone fast.
How is that possible?
well, no, we're probably at like 30
Okay.
because of the thing. But
Well, after
no,
this, we'll go break.
so it was. Is it Luke? I think it's Luke. Truly, I tell you, there is joy in the presence of God. No, yes. I had to look.
Nope.
I have those same conversations with myself all the time. No, yes.
So in the same way, so it's Luke 15:10. In the same way, I tell you, there is rejoicing in the presence of angels of God over one sinner who repents.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And something too that is legit biblical. There has been many times where angels have been among us and you don't know it. Mm-hmm. So there has been multiple times in your life probably that you have been speaking with an angel and you don't know it.
And they've seen your best.
Which is super cool. Super cool. Maybe fallen, maybe not. Mm-hmm. But yeah, to close before our break, I just want to say that it is so easy to live a very selfish life. It's all about me. I want to do my own thing. And something I've been chewing on lately is that we are made in the image of God. And I talked to you a little about this. We have this like nuclear energy inside of us. Oh. And when we hold on to that selfishness, what happens with nuclear? I don't know. I'm not a nuclear physicist, but like it explodes
and you melt down.
Yeah. Like you melt, like it's not made for that. But when we live selflessly, the way that God designed each and every one of us, the way that, because we're image bearers of him and he is selfless, he is love, that nuclear energy goes out. And, maybe to get into the woo woo of like, I don't know, like putting energy out or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like literally putting other people in front of you, holding the door before someone, like letting someone in front of you. Or if someone is thirsty or hungry or whatever and needs a couple dollars, like give it to them. Like there's nothing that we have in this world that we can take with us when we die, even to heaven.
And the thing about it is you won't want to. You get so much better.
And when you start living that way of like looking to heaven as that's your end goal, everything about this world, like we were saying earlier about to live is Christ and die is gain, like you will be happy about dying. Even as morbid as that sounds, it's like, man, I cannot wait to get to heaven and bring as many people as I can with me.
But before we close, so one of my best buddies,
we're going to say that a bunch.
yeah. So this is, we'll take a break right after this. But so Chris, a good mentor of mine, I've talked to you about him. So he had some kind of rare kind of pneumonia a few years back, to the point where he was almost dead. And he was pleading with God. And he's like, why me? Why me? And he said, I remember seeing a picture. I remember seeing the face of a lady that was in his church who was struggling for cancer. And he said, this lady was a saint, more or less, like 100% for Christ, did everything she could. And she passed away from cancer. And he said, why not you? He said, at that moment, I realized one of two things. He said, I was either going to go home to the place in Greenville where he lived, or I was going to go home, which is far better.
Yeah. Yeah. God views death way different than we do. Mm-hmm. That's something that I've been learning as I mature in Christ. Way different than us. We think of it as like, oh, that's the worst, kids dying and stuff. And I don't want to get into that because that's a heavy topic.
Yeah.
But he views it very differently than us.
So on that note, I need more coffee.
Copy that. All right. We're going to take a break.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like what you're listening to, please like and share this podcast with your friends and family. Check out our merch where we have t-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs, and more. Continue this topic on our Facebook page with other kingdom-minded nerds. Now back to the show.
Back. Hopefully you'll get that because that's
leaving
fun.
That in there.
Yeah, leave it in there. Welcome back from the break. We really never we take breaks and get drinks and go pee and stuff, but we still just keep talking. But I never got to share what I kind of got to go to. I went to NCMS. When was it? The week of the 11th and 15th? Oh, what'd you do? Are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Dave's going to be so bad. We miss you, Dave.
Sorry.
But yeah, so it was Nerd Culture Ministry Summit that I went to with Tyler. He was on the Sin podcast. What was that one? The
7 Deadly Sins.
7 Deadly Sins. Good friend of mine. And it was really interesting. It was really cool to see how many other, and there was only like 100 other people. I'm sure there's lots of others. But lots of other nerd creators trying to share the gospel in different ways. So some of them literally have like full-on digital churches. Some of them are like streamers on Twitch, so they game and stuff. Some of them are, other kind of content creators and things. One guy, he's just a normal YouTube content creator, but he's a solid Christian dude. His name was, I think, Loru on YouTube. And hopefully when I post this one on YouTube, I'll try to like link as many people as I can. But it was really cool. And something that stuck out to me was how everyone, like you could tell they love Jesus, but for whatever reason, me, and if you're watching this from Nerd Culture Ministry, if you're one of those people, I love you. And this is something that anytime I see something in someone else, it's always a mirror at me. And I was like, I feel like I'm putting my ministry, Nerds in Christ, like ahead of my family. And I totally was. And it was like a culture shock when I saw that. I was like, man, all these people are doing great things. And I miss my family really bad. And it wasn't like one of those things where like, especially like going on mission. And I've been on a couple of missions like in South American stuff, like, it's a feeling of like, I'm here and I'm not with my family, but I know they support me. I was there and I honestly did not feel supported. And I felt really bad because I had 3 little ones at home, and Marissa, my wife, is every night like, hey, we're doing great. I'm dying. Like I could just tell that in her voice.
I cried.
I know. But so for me in the ministry, like, just to be completely honest, I need to take a step back and kind of reevaluate. And because the podcast for sure was a God thing. I know that for a fact, but I think a lot of the extra stuff I started doing on YouTube and Twitch and all this and that, I think that was just stuff I was trying to do to be like a content creator. So anyway, that's my spiel. But there was a couple really cool talks that they did. And I wanted to like bring up like one or two of them. The first one was major, and these numbers aren't like exact. I think I may have wrote them down. Yeah, I did. So between movies, TV shows, music, and like all that stuff wrapped together is about $157 billion industry. The gaming industry for 2024 is estimated to be $400 billion.
Oh, I believe it. I mean,
So almost triple of
And
what
just gaming as opposed
just gaming.
to all other entertainment
media
entities together.
Yes, it just completely dwarfs it, which is insane.
well, to look at it, so you spend, so if you get an Xbox or a PlayStation, well, if you get a PlayStation 5, there's $500.
Yeah.
New Xbox, like $400. Then a game costs 70. And then
Then
there's
online subscriptions.
Yes, so
Yeah.
And-
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. That's an obvious thing, but like what I'm getting at is how vast that is for missionaries to get into. Of being a Twitch streamer and just like literally, if someone asks you a question in the chat, just talk to them about Jesus, or like you were saying with Call of Duty Black Ops 6, like. Sometimes those kind of friendships that you guys play with every night, they'll just open up to you about the deepest thing. So keep doing that.
Make like a totally awesome video game, like Samuel.
Man, if ever I could be a part I met some people that make video games and I was like, oh my gosh, are you serious? Which was really cool. But, most of them work for, one of them, I think he worked for, not Wizards of the Coast, but Riot Games. One guy worked for Riot Games.
I know what they mean.
But anyway, yes, the whole first and second Samuel like video game stuff would be really cool. Really, really cool.
First, second Samuel, Numbers.
But then
Genesis.
another one, Keynote 2, this was Dr. Lamar Hardwick, and he was, what did he call himself? The autistic pastor, because he was autistic. But dude was brilliant. Brilliant. But he talked about how modern churches build the church backwards. They build churches to facilitate the crowd you want to come in, the pretty crowd, the crowd that pays their tithes very well, the all that. And he brought up a really cool verse. I know I wrote it down. Yeah, this was a 2-pager. Where did I write that at? It was one of the sermons that Jesus, Luke 14:7. It's talking about how the master does this banquet, right? And he wants to invite, the people, right? But everyone's like, oh, I'm busy and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, I got I got to try it
So
out.
he tells his servants, okay, go to the wayside, go to the streets, go invite people that are begging in the streets and all that. So what he was touching on, being autistic and all that, he's like, we need to build churches to facilitate those people, the people that truly need Jesus or that can't. One of y'all said something about this, that can't give back.
Yeah.
Right? Was it Stephen that said that? That's who the churches are for.
Well, you look at the story of the widow's mite. I mean, she gave 2 shekels, give or take, versus
No, it was 2 pennies.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a shekel.
So like a wheat penny. She gave 2 of those when the guy next to her gave like $500,000.
A mite. It was a mite.
So
Sorry.
And they asked who gave more. She did, because she gave all she had.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at what Christ says when the Pharisees and the Sadducees come up to his disciples and is like, hey, why does your master, your rabbi, eat with the sinners, the tax collectors, the prostitutes, like the whores, stuff like that? And Jesus looks at him and said, it's not the healthy that need a doctor, it's the sick. And that's something we mistake. And for a long time in my ministry journey, I was that same way.
Yeah.
And we do need a wake-up shot.
Yeah.
Like the people who were against their sin, like, to be perfectly blunt, like the gay community, okay? They need to be at church 100% like we do. Do they need to hold a position? Absolutely not, because they're dealing with a sin. Just like if I was having infidelity in my marriage, or if I was a drunkard or something like that, I shouldn't hold a position of power or a position of leadership in a church. You have to deal with the sin. When you truly encounter Christ, you deal with that sin, and then he can use you. You need to be in church. Everyone needs to be in church.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that's a big reason why, the main reason I started this Nerds in Christ kind of thing is because I want to reach the people that the church doesn't reach, the people that don't have hope or that are living in darkness and all that, because that's where my heart's at. That's I had a lot of night terrors growing up, and so I felt fear and all that sort of thing. And so I think God has geared me up to do that, but I think I started doing it in kind of out of my own power and strength.
But you look at where we're at now. Like,
I mean, he clearly uses everything.
Well, no, it clearly had to be God ordained, because I mean, we're sitting in a studio with ain't no telling how much stuff that we can never afford or never dream of.
Don't break anything.
Like, we just started on a phone, like doing a Bible study, and it sounded kind of shoddy.
I need to see if I can find that.
Like paper and pencils. Like I could never afford that.
Yeah.
Well, you can't afford paper.
but like, you see how God gave you the vision. We got into contact with each other through our wives. We became really good friends. You and Steven started working together.
I miss working with Steven.
Thomas started
And
coming
then,
later on.
I think we just found you on the road or something, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. We picked up a hitchhiker. But that's the
I was
thing.
raiding and everything, and you guys came
Yeah,
along and
yeah.
shared Christ with me. You know,
Yeah,
put
you
down my axe,
needed a
picked up
ride.
the cross. It was all good.
But that's the thing. Like, you look at it and you see how you get inspired to do this one little thing. And when you are in the midst of it, like we are now, you look back and you're like, oh, I see how God connected the dots.
Yeah.
If you remember, we talked about that last time I was on the podcast. The small things that start adding up, you know, things that you don't realize you're being prepared for something down the road. And I think this is the same kind of thing you guys are talking about right now, where you started, you know, God planted a seed inside you. You watered it. He helped it to grow, and look where you're at now.
Kind of like one of my favorite scenes in a movie. I know this is like super cheesy, but like,
Dude, I can't wait. Yeah, let's dig in.
Has everybody seen the first Karate Kid?
Yeah,
Yes.
Of course.
You know, Daniel gets mad. He's like, how come you just have me doing?
I saw this.
chores?
I saw someone make this reel that you're about to share today. I saw this today. Go ahead.
You know, and he's like, you're just having me do chores. I'm just over here, you know, waxing your floor and, you know, or sanding the floor and, you know, waxing the car.
Painting
and
the fence.
Painting the fence.
Yeah.
And then Miyagi, you know, he's like, you know, all right, sand the floor. And he's like, no, sand the floor. You know, he has him actually do it the way he's supposed to do it. And then Miyagi attacks him. Mm-hmm. Then he's like, oh.
Yeah.
You got to do the Miyagi voice.
Yeah, so that's crazy. I saw something about that today, and I heard in a podcast, Forming Men podcast. Everyone here should listen to it. It's
Is
amazing.
that what you sent me?
Yes, please listen to it.
Oh.
But yeah, like literally everything you go through is preparing you for the next thing that God has for you. So like anytime you're feeling sorry for yourself or like, oh, I wish I was doing that thing up there, and God's like, I know, that's why I have you right here to prepare you for that.
Well, that's
And I
like-
need to remind myself that every 4 seconds, because I'm like, God, I want to go do that. And he's like,
Yeah.
I know, that's why you're here, so you can go do that thing.
Yeah,
you're
sand the
finally-
floor,
you-
wax on, wax off.
You're finally at 4 seconds. I'm still on 2.
Yeah, it's pretty stupid.
But that's the thing. So I look back at like my time in the military, which there were some good times and some bad times, right?
There was a good time,
Yeah.
and there were bad
Very
times.
like Pride and Prejudice starting. They were the best of times and they were the worst of times. But you look back and you look back at like the simple
Your
thing-
military time was Pride and Prejudice.
Yes.
I mean, that's not a bad outlook on
That's
it.
like that should be the quota, like the quote for any military service. Yeah, Pride and Prejudice. It'll be the best and the worst. But anyway, you look back at what everybody goes through basic training. Day 1, they tell you to make your bed and you're like, how? Okay, you did it wrong. Then they show you. You still make it wrong the next day. They show you again. Finally, you get that. And it's so on and so forth to the point where like you're walking around the defact and you're holding 2 cups to your chest just like this. You did it for what, 9 weeks. The last week, the reason you did it like that is because you pull the pin and you throw on a grenade. You keep it to your chest. You pull the pin or twist, pull, throw.
Yeah, so bringing that up, like, how can we apply that to our daily walk as Christians? Like, do certain things because of certain things. Like, don't.
Be thankful for hard times. And I say this all the time. One of my favorite prayers, and I could not quote this correctly ever, but the guy said, I pray for hard times. I ask for the things which other men do not ask for. I ask for trouble and strife, and I ask for these in abundance, so that I may know the good times when they come. And I ask for these, or no, I ask for these in abundance, because I may not have the strength to ask for them later on. And that was a World War II guy about to hit the beaches.
Yeah.
Wrote down this little prayer.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of the most touching things that you need to be thankful for hard times.
Mm-hmm.
They're showing you just how bad things can be, A, and B, what doesn't kill you makes you tougher. And I think Christ does that a lot for us. He brings trouble and strife into our life, or he allows it to happen to us, much like with Job, and it's accept it. And once you can learn to accept it, it just makes you stronger.
Well, that's like we seek this for the bad times or the good times. We don't seek it in between. The vast majority of
That's true.
Christianity, right?
Very true.
Yeah.
This is for the good, the bad, the in between.
Yeah, it's the daily bread.
And it is. So you look at it, you can, if you want to start anywhere, listener, viewer, if you want to start anywhere, start with this. Just 10 minutes a day.
Romans,
Romans,
John,
Matthew. Start with
like Matthew, yeah.
I
start
can't
with
just throwing out books of the Bible there, just one after the other.
Well, I'm just saying.
No, I love it though.
So many people are like, I don't know where to start.
Start with Jesus.
Start in Genesis, page 1 in the beginning.
Well,
like,
if that intimidates you, start with Jesus.
yeah, Jesus
Start
is super
Matthew,
cool.
Mark, Luke, and John.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then go from there.
I've heard like one of the best ways to really dig into it is, I think it's John, Romans, Genesis, and like those three really get you a good picture of what's happening.
But that's the thing. If you start with this as this and prayer, so like on your way to work, if you drive 5 minutes, you drive an hour. Pray for 10 of it. If you forget to read this in the
How do
morning,
you pray for 10 of it if you're driving 5?
well, you're walking in.
I'm confused.
Anyway, so
He said if you're driving an hour. Oh, there.
so like
Sorry.
if you can't wake up in the morning, sometimes it's hard for me to wake up, especially during like hunting season. Like I'll wake up,
Be disciplined.
so I'll be disciplined, and then I'll get a nap, and then that'll ruin the discipline for the next few weeks. But so my lunchtime, or if I can't hand it on lunch,
Yeah.
when I pull in the driveway, I text my wife, hey, I'm going to take 20 minutes and I'm going to read the Bible.
Yeah.
Or if I can't do that, my daughter's being a little turd.
Hey, listen, listener.
Before
you
bed.
can get it on your phone. Next time you take a dump,
100%.
read it. I mean, hey.
I listen on my way to work. I
Boom.
have it all.
That's how I wrote my book, actually. Wrote it all on my phone.
On the toilet?
Yeah, well, anytime I have like 5 minutes, I'm like, I'm just sitting here.
what you meant.
Might as well start writing.
Sorry, Cameron's trying to get all deep. I keep throwing a wrench in it. I'm
but,
sorry.
But that's the thing. Like,
Yes.
no matter what, when you get a 5-minute interval during your day, like if it's right before you close your eyes, pull up the app. It's free.
Instead of scrolling on the scroll.
Oh,
This is a Bible. Bible scroll. You know, I'm full of them. It's whatever.
it's-
good dad joke there. I like that.
You know, it's whatever.
But like, that's what you start with the small stuff.
Yeah.
So that when hard times come, you can rely on the small stuff. Then you get the bigger stuff.
Yeah, there was a study I heard. This kind of stuff I should totally write down. But when people read the Bible for, I think it's 5 minutes a day or a week, like they're 70% more, not like happy or anything, but like it's better if you just read like 5 minutes a week and then 10 minutes a week. And the study went on, and I'll try to find it and post it somewhere, share it with y'all, because it was super interesting.
Well, that's like if,
Just a couple minutes in the Word, it like changes your outlook. And we spend way too much time on our phones.
well, that's like instead of reaching for your phone, reach
Yeah.
for something that reminds you. I keep this in my pocket. It's a little cross.
Yep.
I gave you a challenge coin that had scripture on it, stuff like that. That it's just like if I'm having a hard day at work and I want to throw hands, or I want to just like say something that's not.
Every
If I
day.
wanted to be worldly, like
You're
reach in my
retail, we
pocket.
get it.
Yeah.
Like-
but sometimes the tactile thing, the thing you can actually physically touch is awesome. I keep, it's goofy, but I keep a little Bible in my like tool bag. I don't ever pull it out, but like I know it's there.
Oh, I had one, and this is funny. You know what I'm talking about. You know, on the old OCPs or ACUs.
Yeah,
They
okay.
had the bottom pockets
Yeah,
next to your
those.
boots. I had a New Testament, one of those pocket New Testament, in there at all times. And there was plenty of
Like
times.
a little Gideon Bible.
Yeah, one of the like teeny tiny ones. There was plenty of times we were fixing to throw hands that I reached down and it's like, hold on,
Just
we're
touched it?
Yeah,
That's cool.
I kept one in the boom bag at all times.
yeah. But you know what? It's the thing we take for granted.
What's
like,
a boom bag? That sounds cool.
Oh, so the boom bag is, we only carry 270 rounds on it.
Wait, is it like that one bag on the Mummy where he like rolls out all his guns and he's
No,
Logo?
I wish. I really
That's the
wish.
coolest thing ever.
But it's all of our preloaded ammo.
okay.
So like we can only carry 270 rounds on us. That's as much as we can. Like we have little pockets for and stuff.
how many magazines is that?
10. No, that's not right.
So there's 30, usually about 12.
Yeah. 11, 12 magazines, what you'd be able to carry.
One
because
at a gun and
they're
then
double
11.
stacked here. So you have 2, 4, and 6. So you have 12 over here, and then you have one in the chamber, and then or one in the magazine weld, and then you have another one that's normally like a side pouch up here if you didn't have a pistol thing. But anyways, the boom bag was for the squad, and you would carry a bunch of preloaded mags in it. So it was just an assault pack full of loaded magazines, and we call it the boom bag. So anytime we want to throw a party, get the boom bag out. So many times we'd have to traipse that bad boy up top of a hill and everything and set it down, and yeah. So
we'll replace the boom box of the
exactly right. And this is what we were going to make noise with and throw a party. So it was our boom bag.
But it's so interesting that we look and we're like, I want to get out of these hard times. I want to, especially in today's society. Men aren't men, and I hate to say that. It's a hard truth. We're not. I mean, we are, but there's sometimes
sometimes I'm not.
Yeah, but I mean, the men of generations past they're rolling over in our grave. Our forefathers that founded the United States are awestruck and they put themselves back in the casket, kind of thing.
I mean, not even that far back. Just think, 80 years ago.
But we're not men anymore. We don't know how to, as a whole, lead our family like Christ led the church. We don't know how to suffer through hard times so that we can enjoy the good times.
You remember how we talked about God like hitting on you a little bit and be like, hey, you getting this? Been reading First Timothy, through the church and everything right now, because that's what the book Brian's on. And yeah, this is where it's at, that men have to lead, as Christ led. You have to be a good custodian. You have to be somebody who's well thought of. And there's a whole list of stuff for elders and stuff. And this has really hit home with me because there's a few things that I have missed. Absolutely. 100%. And that I'm like,
even if you get this one 100% and you're only doing this one 3,
exactly.
It's like, how good are you actually doing? So if you can bench 100,000 pounds, but like you're not providing for your kids spiritually, you're not doing great.
Consider like 1 Samuel 15. When God gave Samuel the commandment to give to Saul to set upon the Amalekites and to completely wipe them off the face of the earth. Every man, woman, child, ox, and ox, goat.
Everything.
And Saul, he come upon the Amalekites. He slew them all, but he took King Agag captive, and he took all their best livestock. And, Samuel, received from God, he's like, hey, we are really upset, Don't just do it halfway. You got to do exactly what you're told.
And isn't
Saul made an excuse. He's like, well, I was going to offer sacrifices to God.
Yeah.
And, he's like, well, no. In the book, I can't remember exactly how it was worded, or he said, basically like, I would rather you obey me than to make a sacrifice to atone for your sin.
Yeah, I think Jesus quotes that, or maybe Paul quotes that in the New Testament too.
I think it's Paul, because he talks about Jesus being that sacrifice.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter what you sacrifice anymore. Jesus has done it.
Yeah, it's in Romans 12:1.
Thank you, Stephen. Solid. It's like worship is better than sacrifice.
Dear brothers, I plead with you to give your bodies to God as a living sacrifice, as he has done for you. Let them be a living sacrifice and holy, the kind that he will find acceptable, because this is the only true way to worship him.
Yeah.
And
Reverend Steve.
And you look at, so you're talking about Timothy. So you have Timothy and Titus, right? Those were the last books that the last little letters, the epistles that he wrote, because he was dead after that. Like he went to Christ. He didn't live, he died for Christ. And you look back at, looking back at this, how there's this fictional movie, I don't know the name of it, but it's about a candidate presidential election or something, and they said, what makes America great? And the guy gets up, he said, it's not. Yeah. And he said, we're like 27th in literature, yada, yada, yada. He said, we're not. He said, but we were. And that's the thing, like, us as Christians, we've relinquished too much authority. We've went back to being the Corinthians. We went back to being Galatians. We have people that's so obsessed with following the law that they could care less about what Jesus said, and they care what Moses said. Then we have too many people that's allowing, like they did in Corinthians, for a son to sleep with his stepmom, and it'd be cool in the church. And it's like, no, not even the Gentiles thinks that's cool. Like, what's going on? We've relinquished that authority that we have been given through Christ. to show the world, like, hey, quit being dumb.
Quit being dumb. Yeah.
And that's something I'm thankful for. I mean, you look at what we're 100%, and you look at where we're going to. This is the Monday before Thanksgiving for us. It probably won't be up by the time Thanksgiving rolls around, but
it better be.
Yeah. I'll get right on that. Anyway, but I look at it, and it's the part of, I'm thankful for some of those hard times. I'm thankful for, like I said, my military. It was the best of times because I made some great friends that I still talk to, but it was the worst of times. I got hurt. I went through an identity crisis where, man, I'm getting out, but I never went down range, and there's people who went down range, got hurt, and
then you're not a real soldier.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
That's not but that's what you felt. Yeah,
that's
exactly where your mind goes.
That's the type of struggle that you know.
So that's something I dealt with, to where I brought it up to, the EM for our county, right, Randy?
Not off the top of my head.
So he's an ex-CSM.
Okay.
Like E9, top of the top. And my wife used to go to his Bible. He was a youth pastor.
Okay.
So I went to him, and he's like, "What's up, man?" And we went in another room, and I was in tears. He's like, "Man, you did something." Because in my head, when I first got out, I was worthless. But then I look at it, I'm like, I learned so much leadership-wise from my time in the military. The struggle I had when my wife and I first got married, of me being selfish. If you want to find out if you're selfish, which you are, get married, because you will find out real quick you're selfish.
You find out real quick, yeah.
But how it changes in the 3 years that we've been married and the almost 9 years we've been together is I realized, hey, I could care less about me now. I'd rather serve her and my daughter versus anything else. You start realizing, hey, thank you for showing me my selfishness. Thank you for showing me the sin that I dealt with. Thank you for everything.
And that's you were talking about Galatians too. It goes back to Galatians 1:10 when it says, obviously I'm not trying to win the approval of people, but of God, because if pleasing people were my goal, then I wouldn't be a servant of Christ.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's like when we had our conversation after you got back from the conference, and you're like, what should we do? And I'm like, let's take off the gloves, because I'm tired of it. Like it's that thing where when we were talking about people's attention spans, we're talking about people like seeking themselves. You got to grow up and quit doing that. That's why I haven't played Xbox in a while. I might get on one night on a Friday night, play for a couple hours. Then by the time I'm done, it's like, I'm going to unplug it and not touch it for the rest of the week.
Yeah. And I've heard like arguments that I don't agree with of like, but you got to have time to unwind and like, you need to have you time. And I'm like, but do you? Like, do you actually?
So I'm gonna have to agree that you do. There's a season for everything.
But I'm saying like,
but not like hours and hours and hours.
Right.
Where you're wasting time that could be better spent doing something else. I mean, take 5-10 minutes or whatever, like you were talking about earlier, and take a breather. I mean, for me, it's jujitsu. I love trying to choke people out and having them do the same thing to me. It's a lot of fun. And it helps me to unwind. But, and I've always said this, your unwind time should not be, I'm just going to sit here and zone out and, do something completely monotonous. Like jiu-jitsu in and of itself, I'm building my body up. I'm getting a therapy session in, because we don't just sit there and roll with each other in complete silence. We're laughing, we're joking, we're talking about what's going on. And it's probably one of the best ways for men to come together and have a therapy session. Ladies, I love when y'all come to jiu-jitsu. I think the sport needs more women in it. But when we have just men there, which is a lot of the times because, a bunch of people sweating and being nasty, it's a lot of fun because we sit there and we have those conversations that, men need to have with each other, like.
You can be more open and honest with yourself through physical exertion and competition, because that is it's honestly an expression of yourself.
Of your true manhood.
Yeah.
So to get back to Warrior Poet Society, he had his,
no, you've already done two. So you can't do a third.
I'm doing a third.
You're not allowed.
I have this.
You only have like 3 minutes left.
John Lovell is only 2.
So this is John Lovell. This is actually Rebecca Lovell, his wife. So
technically
this isn't
a third.
So this is
a new one.
My wife and I were.
We need to write a new clause.
And so my wife and I were watching one of their podcasts last night. And she's like, pause this. And first she's like, this is everything I've been telling you to watch. Why are you just not listening? I'm like, you're good. But she went and laid Emmy down.
Say, yes, ma'am, you're right. Yeah. I'm wrong.
So,
and then continue watching.
So basically, so Emmy woke up, she went in there, and she ended up laying back down with Emmy for a little bit. So I'm watching it, and they talk about an unwind phase. So as men, we're called to be providers for our household and everything. It's biblical. And when we go from being provider mode to family mode, we do need that little bit of time to kind of switch. That way we don't bring our problems from the workplace to the home. And it was like, so he said on Mondays are a really big day for him. So that's his red light. So he's like, but the best thing is to like go out, mow the yard, spend 20 minutes, tinker in the shop, do something like that. But your home should be a place where you want to go back to relax to, spend time with family. But if it's chaotic, you're going to want to stay and do your hobbies more. But ultimately, so you get out of the truck, you go do your thing. If it's mow the grass, work on something, spend 20, 30 minutes watching your favorite TV show and just kind of chilling. And then you're shifted over to that mindset of family mode versus bringing your work problems home.
Yeah.
So I think it is a good catch-22 that we do need a little bit of time to decompress, especially if you work in an environment that can be stressful. Any environment can, from factory workers to sanitation. I mean,
don't you do that if you come back from deployment or whatever? You go through a debriefing.
You go through, oh gosh, what do they call it? It's like a decompression phase.
yeah.
So,
It is wise to do that.
Kind of the same concept.
yeah, they had us go out and like play paintball and stuff. We went mountain biking. I mean, just a lot of little activities we could do during the duty day to
Debrief,
go out.
like
So,
that. Or what did you say?
decompress.
Decompress.
Yeah, it's a decompression period. Is what it like when you look at it in our blockout periods because they block out weeks and stuff and say, hey, we're doing this, this, and this. It's called the decompression week.
Because they don't want you to go straight.
Well, I meant more so coming home from work.
Yeah. And that's something I've had to tell Abby before. It's like, hey, it's been a really crappy day at work.
Yeah.
Because like you try pleasing everybody and you try doing what you're called to do, but you have to do a lot of other people's stuff too. It kind of gets to you. They can skate by and do absolutely nothing, and you have to pick up the slack, and they're getting a pat on the back. Not that you need a pat on the back, but it gets
No, but that's always really nice. I'm going to be the first one to say that. I will work like a dog, and it's fine. But there's somebody to go, hey, thanks. I really appreciate that. That means more to me than gold. You could pay me $1,000. It wouldn't mean as much as that one pat on the back saying, hey, thanks for what you're doing. And I just because this is one of the things like I struggle with all the time is always trying to be thankful. And that's what, like here in the last month, I've really been, trying to thank God at all times for any small little thing, if it's something as stupid as I got the cool parking spot at the school when I was waiting to pick up the kids. Hey, thanks God. I really appreciate this, just taking that moment. And that's a huge thing is when you get those little pats, it's almost like a little pat from God saying, hey, it's all right, big guy.
My cousin was preaching a sermon one time, and he said it was back when he was younger. And he was with grandmama, my wife's great grandma. And he said they went to like Walmart or Kroger or something. And he said, he looked over and realized she was praying. He said, Grandmama, what you praying about? She said, for a good parking spot. He said, why are you bothering God with something so trivial? She said, if I can go to him with the big stuff, why can't I go to him with the small stuff?
There you go.
Yeah, I've heard it too. If it's big enough for you to think about and worry about, it's big enough for you to pray about. So we only got a couple more minutes. Why don't, Stephen, you had like 4 verses, I think, on thankfulness, didn't you?
What you sent us.
Why don't we each look one up and read it? Let me find them and I'll shout them out.
Okay, like what I sent in our group chat?
No, it's 3 of them. Okay, so 1 Thessalonians 5:16 through 18. Who's got that?
First Thessalonians?
Okay. Colossians 3:15 through 17. Who's got that?
I'll take that one. Colossians
and
3.
Then, Thomas, when you get 2:7, Colossians 2:7.
Yes, I will.
Okay. And
Colossians 2:7.
There was only one Colossians.
Yeah,
no, it's okay. It's okay. I know. And I'll get Psalm 100.
Wait, which Colossians did you say? What?
For you, 2:7.
And I'm 3:17.
3:15 through 17.
Okay.
Okay, you want me to go ahead and go?
Yeah, go ahead, dude.
All right, 1 Thessalonians 5:16 through 18. Rejoice always, pray continuously, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Jesus Christ.
That's good. Always. So even with the parking spot, even when you get fired from your job, even when it's raining and cold outside.
It's plain as day. Rejoice always. And rejoice always is one verse. It's 2 words.
Rejoice always.
Yeah, that's 1 Thessalonians 5:16. Rejoice always.
If there's nothing else from this podcast, remember that. That's good.
And then verse 17 is also 2 words. Pray continually.
Rejoice always, pray continually.
So those are 2 separate verses.
You could kind of do that just in a circle.
Rejoice
Thank you,
always.
Pat.
Yep. Good stuff.
So Colossians 15 through 17. And let the peace of Christ, to which you were also called in one body, rule your hearts, and be thankful. Let the word of Christ dwell richly among you, in all wisdom, teaching and admonishing one another through psalms, hymns, spiritual songs, singing to God with gratitude in your hearts. And whatever you do in word or in deed, do everything in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him.
Whatever you do, give him thanks. That's good too. Old Tommy?
Tommy boy.
Colossians 2:7.
I'm a Tommy boy.
Rooted and built up in him and established in the faith, just as you were taught, abounding in thanksgiving.
Abounding in thanksgiving. Think of a deer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it means like just running amok being thankful.
Just all kinds of thankful.
Y'all mind if I tell a quick story about being thankful?
You only have a minute.
Okay, I think I can do that in under a minute. So we were talking about coming home from deployment and stuff and how bad it was. When I got out of the military, I had been promised a job and everything didn't come through. They ended up giving it to somebody's cousin or whatever. Everything just was not working. I was left at home with a 4-year-old child by myself to raise. My wife was on her first deployment. It was horrible. I decided I was going to kill myself. I was no longer any good. I was medically discharged from the military. I was broken, beaten down, and I decided I was going to check out. And I had sent my daughter up here, as a matter of fact, to Kentucky, and I was down in Georgia. And she was up here with grandma. And the night I decided to do it, I loaded my 45. I prepared myself mentally. I cried out to God, and I didn't feel like I was getting answers. And suddenly I started getting these Skype calls just back to back to back to back. And finally I answered it. I was like, oh my Lord, what? And I answered the Skype calls from my mom, and she goes, your daughter is freaking out. Are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine, Mom. I'm just watching a sad movie. What does she need? And she goes, she's just been begging to talk to you for the last 5 minutes. She will not be quiet. Would you please talk to her? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'm wiping away the tears and stuff. My daughter gets on there and she goes, you look sad, Daddy. And I said, I am, kiddo. I miss you and I miss Mommy and everything. I said, I'm not in a good place right now. I'm sorry. I said, how are you doing, sweetie? She's like, Daddy, I love you. I love you so much. And I broke in that moment. I mean, literally, I immediately disassembled my 45 while I was talking to him. Didn't let him see it, obviously, but I disassembled it. I got down on my knees after I got to talk with my daughter, telling her I loved her, and then I would see her that weekend. And I prayed fervently, and I was like, God, I am so sorry. I don't know how it's gotten to this point. I've let all this darkness and these voices in, and I am so sorry. And the reason I'm telling this is because I ended up calling a guy, started jiu-jitsu like the next week, fell in love with it, and it led to so much great stuff. But looking back, in that moment, that was the worst moment of my life. Like I've been shot, I've been blown up, and I was like, yeah, that's all cool. But that moment, I felt so useless. And now looking back, I'm like, this is God. This is God. We talked about this all through this podcast, being prepared for the next step. And it helped me connect with so many veterans and stuff because I've been there. Mm-hmm. I have been on the brink. I have stared into the abyss and known I was going and pulled back because God was there for me. And I tell them all the time. I'm like, if you want to call it a higher power, whatever you want to call it, I was like, I call it God because I truly believe that God was there. That's who I was praying to. Mm-hmm. I pray to Christ. I pray to God. And that's, the Trinity was there for me that night. And, it led me into this jiu-jitsu, which we were able to offer for free here. And as a matter of fact, a really cool thing, I will share that as well. They've picked up Guardian Jiu-Jitsu is now going to Seven Springs Baptist Church. 2 of my former students are picking it up and doing it, as well as another gym up the way called Scott Odwis, BJJ. They're going to send down an instructor every now and then to help out. Cool. And it's
where's that
at? Seven Springs is over in Dykesburg.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and it's just one of those things that, looking back, normally you wouldn't say I'm thankful for that, but I am so thankful that I was broken to the point of just shattered and then put back together. Yeah. And one last little cool thing about that is if you ever look at stained glass windows, that's broken glass that gets heated and pushed back together, and it becomes something beautiful and amazing that people want to see and want to be part of. They want to see these huge mosaics. It's the same idea with you as a person. Sometimes you need to be broken. You need to be just completely crushed so that you can be built back better. And I think, a lot of times we don't see that. Again, not seeing the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
But looking back, I am just so thankful for that. I'm so thankful for those opportunities that it's all presented, and the doors it opened to me, and the empathy it gave me for other people's situation. Because I won't lie, I was one of those NCOs who did not care. Tell me you're going to commit suicide, I'll hand you my rifle because they took your bolt away. I'm like, here, use mine. And I was not a good person at that time. And through the love of Christ and the power of God, I'm in a much different place. And, we talked about the transformation and stuff. And looking back in my life, I can see that. I can see where the transformation started and how, it got better. And, the Lord started pouring more of himself into me. And I started accepting that rather than fighting it all the time and trying to be a little turd, and finally started saying, God, you know what, you're right. This is not the right way to act. I should do this, I know. No, I don't want to sit next to this person. I've never been friends with him. I'm going to sit right here beside him and we're going to start talking and we're going to find some common ground. Mm-hmm. And it has made such a huge difference in my life.
Dude, that's awesome.
So,
yeah, I think a big thing too, we were talking about selflessness and how God puts you through things sometimes for you, but normally not for you, like you said, for other people. So you can empathize for other people and help them.
I don't think I could cut it out.
I know. I was like, I'm not even going to try the third time around. Okay, so I'm going to read this last one. But also that story and that idea makes me always think of Joseph, how he went through all kinds of stuff in Genesis. I think the end of it, I think, is in chapter 50, where he's like, you meant it for harm, but God brought it out for good.
I mean, if you really kind of think about it too, that was kind of also the purpose of Jesus, to come and empathize with humans. Like, I've been there. I've walked the walk. I can do it.
Yeah,
if I did it, you can do it.
He was tempted,
just like us, and he persevered.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to read Psalm 100, verse 4, and then we're going to close. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. And that, I think, can tie into how we can enter the throne room of heaven because Jesus tore the veil, right? So anytime we're feeling low or anything like that, if we enter the gates of heaven with praise and thanksgiving, that changes something in us. Like, it's not anything God needs. It's something that we need. And when we're thankful, it's really hard to be anxious when you're thankful.
I got a visual for this.
Okay.
And I'm going to have to stand up on it. And I, by no means, am trying to portray Jesus, but this is kind of what that goes with what you're talking. So you're sinner, right? Mm-hmm. You just got up to heaven. So instead of you standing before God, the great light that's right in front of us, and giving an account, Jesus comes and says, no, this one's mine.
That's deep. That's deep.
That's cool. All right. We're going to end with that. Thank you, listener, for hanging out with us, or viewer, if we're watching on YouTube. This has kind of been an unhinged Nerds in Christ, but I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed just talking and let the conversation kind of flow. Yeah. If you need anything, prayer or a question, concern, anything like that, just reach out to one of us on the YouTube page or something like that, or on the Facebook. And you know what to do, all the things. It's on me below. So any closing words?
Yeah. Anytime, caveat of what he said, anytime you need somebody to talk to, I don't care how down you are, how far you think you are from God, you need somebody to talk to, I'm available day or night. I am literally medically retired and just enjoying the good life of being a stay-at-home dad. So I volunteer, and I would love to talk to you. Love to, help you work through whatever it is you're working through.
Good stuff. All right. God bless you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Nerds in Christ podcast. Our goal is always to give glory and honor to God in all things and share the love and light of Christ everywhere.